Oh, we're live. There was no countdown. We
Oh.
are live. I think that one is your camera right there. This one. That one. Uh-huh.
Oh.
This one's mine, and then this one is both of ours. So, hey, everyone. How's it going?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our live stream impromptu.
Yeah, it's an impromptu. We are experimenting today. We're going to record a podcast episode, and we thought it would be fun to record a podcast episode and live stream at the same time. This is something we used to do all the time, and we loved it. And we still do it every now and then periodically. So
Yeah, and we're wearing our sweatpants. We're here all like chill and relaxed and ready to go. Also, we have new equipment, and that we're going to be bragging about our equipment in an upcoming video.
yeah, we're doing a video too, all about this as well, about a live stream setup, the different cameras that you can use to go live with your own podcast. And so this is all part of that as well. And that's going to be next week's video.
How Studio Steve had to sell one of his kidneys to buy all this equipment.
Yeah. But for those of you who are here, say hi. Tell us where you're tuning in from. It looks like there's a few of you here already. This is going to be a really fun presentation that we're putting together today. So even though we're recording our own podcast episode, we're going to break it up into like presentational style material, and then we'll pause every so often and for questions that you may have and see if you've left any comments and any questions you might have. And what are we talking about today?
So we are going to be talking about the 7 things. Is it 7 or 5?
The 7 things.
The 7 things that you should be doing for your podcast that will bring you more notoriety. I don't know how to say that word.
Notoriety
that
or
will- that
exposure. It's going to have more eyes
exposure
and
and-
ears on your
yes.
show.
Yeah, because we're going to be learning what the top performing podcasts do in order for them to stay in the top charts.
And it looks like we got Soul Touch a Poet back in the house with us today. How's it going?
Yes, and like for those of you who have been missing us, because
Yeah, and he says, welcome back.
we were going live on Saturday. So which camera am I?
Oh, you're in your camera. Any one of those cameras
okay.
is fine.
So yeah, we were going live on Saturdays, and we were doing it for a while, but now we're trying to like figure it out, all this going live situation and how we don't know if it's helping our channel or not. And also we have some conflicts with the schedule, because that's the time where we don't have childcare and our 13-year-old quit.
Yeah,
She doesn't want to babysit for
we
us
lost our
anymore.
weekend childcare. But also, yeah, we're just thinking about doing it a little more impromptu, and we've talked about doing pod audits. There's all sorts of fun stuff we want to do with live streaming, and we're always the guinea pigs for our podskis too. So that's kind of why we're doing this too, is just show you different ways that you can record a podcast and live stream and engage with your audience and maybe make little short YouTube videos sort of all at the same time.
All at the same time.
And be a crazy content churning out machine.
Yeah, absolutely. And we love going live for you guys. We love answering your questions. We're just trying to figure things out.
Yeah, and
as
so I
we
just wanted to say
go.
hi to some people. Veronica can't see the comments here, so
No.
I'll have to be in
Oh,
charge
but
of
I
that.
can. You told me that I can.
You could access the live stream from your phone, and that might so that way you can see the comments too. But we had Soul Touch that says welcome back. We have Elective from Manchester, UK, which is awesome. Somebody from Charlotte, North Carolina. Hey Anna, we're also in North Carolina as well. Hey guys,
Amazing.
Georgia here, and Alexandria is with us again. So how fun! So yes, we're talking about how we can learn from the chart-topping podcasts. And there's a really cool article, and we're going to get into that. And we're also going to be recording our podcast at the same time. So we have our little scripts prepared for the intro pieces that will record our podcast that we can then edit after the fact.
Yeah, we have a new intro, so we're going to be reading the intro. Don't think that we're amateurs and we don't know what we're doing. We know what we're doing. We just have a new intro, and I just want to say it perfectly, so that's why we're going to be reading it. But after a while, we'll memorize it, and we're not going to look as amateurs.
Yeah, so...
Which, by the way, being an amateur is totally fine. It's totally okay.
Yeah, and we, I mean... I think we don't know what we're doing most of the time. Anyway,
Yeah, we don't know what we're doing most of the time.
It's a big scramble, right? And you can probably hear too. I sound a little. If you're not new here and you know what I normally sound like, my voice is crazy. Veronica had laryngitis that turned into a pneumonia, and then I had some crazy stuff and antibiotics, and all of our kids
I
are down.
had strep.
Oh man, this winter thing has just been tough.
I had strep through.
Yeah, but now you're getting back. You have your voice back. I'm
Yes.
almost there with my voice back. So,
Yeah.
but let's get to it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so I'm gonna quickly just record over in the DAW here,
Let me-
and then yeah. Okay, so do you want to start us off?
Yes, let me pull up my notes. Okay. Are we recording?
Yes.
Okay, let's do it. Hello and welcome to the Pod Sound School podcast. We're content creators and audio and video geeks. We're here to inspire you and give you our best tools, strategies, and advice to help you create the best possible content so you can bring more eyes and ears to your message.
Yeah, and we're on a mission to teach you everything we know, our skills and experience as we navigate this world of content creation and entrepreneurship. Help us spread the word and grow our community by sharing this episode with a fellow podcaster or content creator.
Also, we are suckers. Well, Studio Steve is a sucker for reviews and comments. He needs constant validation.
I do.
We literally read every single comment on our YouTube channel and here in our podcast on our social media. Reviews are super important because new listeners tend to read those before they give a show a chance. So we'll appreciate that you take the time to leave us a review.
Yeah, and we'll get back to you on the review and comment back to you. It really keeps us going. It's like the gasoline in our engine.
Yes.
If I don't get the validation.
It keeps us going.
Yeah.
He needs a lot of validation.
Today's episode is going to be great. We're also recording this episode live on YouTube, which is really fun. It's a great experiment. And if you're interested in live streaming on YouTube, you can check out our YouTube video that we're going to put out about the different equipment and cameras and microphones and everything for a two-person podcast, how you can live stream with that. But on today's episode, we're going to be talking about an article that we came across the other day. It's called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Podcasts, and it's by Matt Deegan. And we added a link to the article right here where you're listening and in the show notes. And we added a link in the article in the show notes, and we're going to add our thoughts to this topic as well. It's a really cool article and really valuable stuff for podcasters. So, you want to get right into it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's get to it.
Okay.
So number 1, chart-topping shows are long-running shows.
Our long-running shows. Now, where is this article? Because I don't have it to review it.
Oh, you don't have
yeah.
it?
Oh, I just got it right here. Perfect. Okay. So the first thing, and again with this article, what he's talking about in this article is he went and studied a bunch of top chart shows. He studied podcasters that are doing well in terms of, downloads and making money and just they're on the top charts, right? Mm-hmm. And what can we learn from them and what commonalities do they all have with each other? And the first one was, do you want to do like a number 1?
Number 1, chart-topping shows are long-running shows.
Chart-topping shows are long-running shows. So what do you think about that?
So this goes into like podcasting. If you want to see results with your show, it's the kind of like the last one standing.
Yeah, it's a long-term game.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something you just start a podcast and you immediately get that success. I think even in the case of like celebrity podcasts, that's true. Mm-hmm. To really kind of be a top chart and to get whatever your goals are out of your podcast, you need to be in it for the long run.
Yeah. Well, that's a little bit different when it comes to celebrities and influencers and people who have big followings before they get into podcasting, because somehow they're able to leverage those people to become listeners of their podcast. So that's why it's easier for them. But I think that for the independent podcaster, among other things that we're going to be discussing, that is just being there long term. Just so you understand that if you're new or if you've been at it for a year and you're not seeing things moving or happening, it takes patience. It takes time to build an audience to get to the point where you can start seeing results with your podcast.
Yeah, and like Callie says in a comment, it's possible to trend early on, but we know we need to stay committed to to keep growing.
Definitely.
And Callie's done really well with her podcast, the Shakopedia Podcast, which if you guys haven't checked it out, and you're Shakira fans especially, you definitely need to check that podcast out. It's amazing. It's bilingual, and it goes into alphabetical order of all of the Shakira songs. Really cool podcast, very creative. And she's been lucky enough to have her podcast trend at first, which is cool. But it is important to stay committed to see the audience continue to grow and to see the new places that you can take it to.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and she's done such a remarkable work. I love it.
I just had to throw that in there because I saw that the comments in there. So
We're fans.
yeah. So you want to move on to number 2?
Yeah, so number 2, high concepts or great stories are essential.
Can you do like a really outrageous number 2 header kind of thing?
Okay. Number 2.
Like one of your really strange voices.
Oh, number 2 or número dos?
Yeah, número 2. I like that.
Número 2. High concepts or great stories are essential.
Yeah, so what does he mean by this high concepts? That's an interesting thing. And I get into the storytelling, and I understand storytelling is really important when it comes to, grabbing your listeners and giving them a payoff. I think that's why it's so important, the storytelling element. But a high concept, he says, from this article, actually, and he's talking or referencing, citing Wikipedia, and that's high concept is a type of artistic work that can be easily pitched with a succinctly stated premise. It can be contrasted with low concept, which is more concerned with character development and other subtleties that are not as easily summarized. Does that make sense to you?
It kind of does.
And kind of, okay. It kind of makes sense to me too. I think it means basically it's high concept, so it could be a movie. It could be a podcast and it could be a movie, right? Right?
Yeah. And definitely, and the storytelling, podcasting is all about storytelling. Your content should be so compelling that the listener wants to come back for more.
So I love this concept, and this is one we'll definitely pause for and talk with people about in a moment too. But to continue with the podcast episode here, I really love this concept because I think a lot of podcasters have trouble thinking or conceptualizing what storytelling is or how they can storytell in their podcast. Like, for example, like a business podcast or a podcast about fitness or, you know what I'm saying? Maybe different examples of things that it might not seem like it's storytelling to begin with, but there's always ways that you can sneak in storytelling. Yes. What are some examples that you might have with that?
Yeah, I encourage our clients and our students to always introduce the storytelling aspect. I think that even if it's not a story that comes from you, it can be a testimonial from one of your clients. It can be like something interesting that you see happening in the industry. Like, for example, if you're a financial advisor, then you can share a story of one of your clients and how, having the finances and everything in order and investing has given this client a peace of mind that he's going to be taken care of, or that she'll be taken care of in the future, and her family too. Or you can bring stories. If you open up just do this experiment. I challenge you. Open up your episode with a story, and you use this. Imagine this and start telling the story.
Yeah.
Or some kind of trigger word or trigger phrase that will bring me into the story.
A sensual phrase, right? Like, do you remember what those are called? Sensory. Well, there's I can't remember, but you brought kinesthetic and auditory, and because we all have the visual. So if you say imagine or and you really use those words to bring people into it.
Or you describe taste or things like that. And that will bring people inside your story. So use storytelling as much as you can to capture your listeners' attention. That will always work.
Yeah, and that brought me the reason I was wondering if you remember is it brought me to what I wanted to say about storytelling, which is setting the scene. And he talks about this a little bit in the article too. And it's just telling people where you're going to take them. And in a really provocative kind of artsy movie, a lot of times there's mystery to that. So you can create that mystery with your podcast episodes. And a lot of us try to do that by adding a little mystique with the stinger that we put. Like we grab a nice little chunk from the episode, something that our guest said that was really cool or funny or heartfelt, a highlight from the episode. And we put that at the very beginning, 10 seconds, and then the intro of our podcast comes in. Our podcast editor calls that a stinger. So maybe that's what it's called in the industry. I thought a stinger was an extension cable. That's what I think of with a stinger. But it's important. You don't have to say, in this episode, we're going to cover this, this, and this, and you're going to learn this, this, and this. But that's also a really good thing to say, too. And it's just about sort of letting the listener know, like, hey, this is where we're going to take you, or, oh, where are they going with this? Sparking some interest or some mystery at first. And with that, we're going to pause and see what kind of comments we have. And there we go. So far, this podcasting thing, I mean, other than the weird reach and the weird setup that we have, it's going pretty good right now.
Yeah. And the vacuum in the background.
And the vacuum in the background, yeah, that's really good too. So let's see what we got here. I'm going to pull this mic over a little bit too, because that's part of the... So we've got, you guys are just talking among yourselves too, which is awesome. Rob Gleason, how's it going? He says it's hard enough at the beginning to record on a regular basis. Should we be live streaming our podcast too? Ooh, that's a good question. What do you think, Veronica?
I think if you have the equipment for it, which we're going to be talking about the equipment and the video that we'll release next week, I think that, yes.
Yeah.
You will be saving a lot of time, and also you will be engaging with your audience right after and before you start recording your podcast. It will save you a lot of time. It will give you video that you can post on multiple platforms.
It's fun for a lot of different reasons. One reason that we liked it a lot when we first started doing it a long time ago, is we found it brought a different sort of performance out of us.
Definitely.
A better energy, because and a little more antsy, because you're like on stage, people are watching you and listening to you. So it's it makes you kind of bring your game a little bit more. And I think a lot of times when we're podcasting, we forget about the person in the other chair, the fact that somebody's listening to us. And so it allows us to kind of go off on tangents more. And I don't know, but it's also really nice to just not have to worry about a camera and to just be able to get into the audio of the podcast too. So it's good to do it both ways.
Yeah. And also I think that when we prepare for our videos here on YouTube, our educational videos, we tend to overthink. We tend to we want to have it perfect and say the perfect things. But when you go live, is that people get to see your personality. People get to see you making mistakes, which is in reality what happens when you're shooting a video. But we edit our videos so you don't have to waste time watching us stumble upon our words or things like that.
Yeah.
But when you're live, it's like your audience is a little bit more forgiving, because you're going to be making mistakes, but you correct them as you go.
Yeah.
So it just takes the thinking out of the equation, and whatever it is that you're putting out, it is. And sometimes that being spontaneous and having that impromptu reaction, it makes it for a good podcast episode and also for a good video.
Yeah, a good video. And there's all sorts of different things you could do with your live stream after the fact as well. Soul Toucher responded to that. He says, we record live every week, or live two times a month. We pre-record and break the video audio down, which lasts a week. So you can record while you're going live as well, which is what I love about it. And you saw the way that we're doing it is the way that I would recommend doing it, because if you're going to go live and just do your podcast and not engage with your audience, then you're missing out on what live's really all about. Because I think going live really is about getting to chat with your people and getting to answer questions and getting to that community engagement is really important with live. So that's why a lot of people will do this kind of thing where you do kind of presentational style material. Maybe you tell a little bit of your story, or you go through what your episode's going to be about, and then you pause for Q&A and things.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Let's see if we have anything else. Oh, hey, thank you so much. Manya says, hello, guys. You're both looking great today. Thank you.
Thank you. We showered.
We showered today. Then we got,
I washed my hair.
I love your show. My show has been around for 3 years, and I'm getting that many listens. I'm not getting that many listens. How do I fix this? I promote as much as I can to fix this. Well, that's actually what we're talking about. So think about some of these things. Caleb was who said that. Think about some of these things. Or no, not Caleb, sorry. But hey, Caleb, how's it going? Glad you just joined. And if you're just joining, we're talking about an article by Matt, and it's Matt Deegan, and it's called 7 Habits of Highly Effective Podcasts. So we're talking about how we can make your podcast more effective, and we're on to number 3 now. So you want to get back to number 3?
Yeah.
Okay. So give me one moment before we hop back into number 3, and then this time I'll do a weird header for number 3. Okay. So, let's move on to the next one, which is number 3, strong openings.
Yes.
Strong
and
openings.
I totally agree with what he says in the article. He recommends that a great intro or a great intro piece for your podcast should be in 90 seconds. I agree with this.
Yeah, he says that most great shows have 90 seconds.
Have 90 seconds.
Yeah.
And you need to, in those 90 seconds, you should tell the listener what the podcast is about. Let them know who you are and what are your credentials, or that you're the host of the show, and also what the episode is going to be about.
Yeah. Just think about ways, like put yourself in the listener's seat and really, really just brainstorm on it and think about it for a while and think, what can I do that, like, what would hook me in for like 90 seconds, just rich, buttery 90 seconds of like little details. And that's where we were mentioning the stinger. A lot of interview shows do that with the stinger, or they put a nice little preview or highlight from their thing. How can I set up the story? How can I bring them in? Can I add some sound effects? Can I add maybe a little more music at the first? What am I going to promise? What promises am I going to make? By the end of this episode, you're not going to believe what we're going to get to. And just setting up the stage and just hooking people in. You got to hook them in for that 90 seconds. But then you also have to give them a payoff at the end.
Yeah. And I love what he says here. If you include the phrase, well, co-host, your co-host name, hasn't it been a busy week? And then you ramble on for 20 minutes, you're not doing it properly. Well, if your podcast is about like banter and, you're being very successful at it, and, your listeners keep growing and growing because they love listening to you rambling and, conversations with your co-host, like the audience is not even there, then just keep doing your thing. But maybe this is something that you should look into. If your numbers are not going up, or if your podcast is not being recommended, because that's a good measure to have. If your existing audience is not recommending your show to other people, then that indicates that you may have to do some changes to it. But I was listening to a podcast the other day, and I ran into this situation, and I was driving, and I had my commute like to go and pick up my daughter from daycare. It's like 20 minutes, right? So I have those 20 minutes to listen to something, and I'm like, trying to find the right show. And I found one, and that happened to me. It was like solid 10 minutes of back and forth of things that I didn't care. Yeah. And that like I wasn't even there.
Especially as a first-time listener.
I think
that's the other thing to think about too, is like assume that everybody's a first-time listener. Make sure that you put first-time listener language and pieces into each one of your episodes in that first 90 seconds, because that's how you're going to take that listener and turn them back in. And I know people think I'm being repetitive when I say this, but it's okay. And your longtime fans are used to that repetition at the first two, whatever little piece you decide to put there. Yeah. So that's a really good one. Let's move on to another one, and give me a funny header for this one too.
Number four, decent production, which it should be very good or outstanding.
I love that he said decent here, with decent audio production, because he probably found a couple top charters that don't have that great of audio. And those damned top charters that don't have that great of audio create really easy excuses for so many podcasters. Well, so-and-so's audio sounds like garbage, and he's on the top charts. So that's probably why I said decent production. I would say excellent production is never going to hurt you. Yeah. And what's cool is you can get excellent production it doesn't take a lot of extra equipment.
Yeah.
It just takes using the equipment that you have and knowing how to edit and learning how to edit a little bit more and you know, doing good mic technique and you know, just kind of learning more about the craft of manipulating audio and stuff.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. And, you know, for those top chart shows that don't have good audio, some people can get away with that because, you know, let's say that Kanye West, I don't know why.
Kanye is your go-to
Kanye
right
is
now?
my go-to
That's
person
fine.
right now.
I think it's a good go-to.
Yeah, if he was to have a podcast tomorrow and if it would have like very, very bad audio, chances are that his fans would put up with it. So they can listen to his stories, right?
Yeah.
I would put up with it too. But because he's a celebrity. But when we're new, we need to find a way to stand out. And one of the ways that we stood out and that we still do it is by producing a very good podcast with very good audio and also with the videos that we make. If you can introduce good quality, that will always work on your benefit.
Does really
and
cool
it will
things.
put you ahead.
And
Believe me, it will.
It gives you built-in credibility too, meaning that you are taken a little more seriously right out of the gates. So when we first started, we knew barely anything. We were just getting into it under the idea of like, well, let's learn as we go. And what's cool about having that, we had the little bit of production element into it, is it immediately is just like, well, their videos look so good, you know, and we were able to immediately kind of stand out as authority in what we were talking about, even if we didn't really know what we were talking about yet. So
You didn't know. I did.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, well, that's a great place to pause again. We had a couple of other questions, then we'll move on to the next ones as well. Again, if you're just joining us, we're talking about the 7 habits of highly effective podcasts. Really cool article by Matt Deegan. And we're going to add a little bit of our...
What do you guys think?
I think we're going to add one more too.
So
Yeah.
far.
Well, we have some good questions in here. Just let me see what I can do. Well, actually, the questions didn't really have to do with these two things. But so far, we're talking about how you got to be in it for the long run, high concepts and great storytelling, strong openings, and decent production. So there's only 3 left after that. So do you guys think that production is important? And we do have a production question in here. But the first question we have comes from Callie is, any tips for having guests, how to be a good interviewer?
Oof.
That's a tough question.
Yeah. We get that question a lot. And
well, it's not a tough question. It's just a long answer.
It is a long answer. Because it depends on, you know, the show, the guest, your personality.
And it really depends on your audience. I think that's the key, is really trying to develop as clear of an image of who your ideal audience is, who your listeners are, because then when you're interviewing the person, you're going to interview them for your audience. I think that's the biggest aha moment for most interviewers, when they really start to extract good interviews. And usually your audience relates to you a lot, so it's pretty easy to just like whatever interests you the most. And then you'll also hear people say a lot with interviews, don't ask the same questions that person gets asked all the time. Especially if you're interviewing somebody who does get interviewed a lot.
So that's the thing. When you are interviewing somebody who is, let's say, this is that person's 10th podcast interview. So it's a person who gets interviewed a lot. So what's the difference between your interview and an interview that some other podcaster did with this person? Well, it's you, right? Is your approach, is the questions that you're going to ask. That's why it's a good idea, because I see this a lot, like this, you know, an influencer, a celebrity being interviewed for a podcast and being asked the same questions over and over and over. It just doesn't make it interesting. So like, why would I listen to that again? But if you are interviewing this person and you want to like just give it a spin, just lean into your curiosity and your authenticity. That will be my first tip or advice. And also you need to, it's funny because you think like, I should be asking questions and I should be being an active participant of their interview. I think being a good listener will get you farther. I am not good at interviewing people.
Yeah, no, neither
Every
am I.
time I've tried to make a video about interviewing and how you can get better. I feel like I'm, imposter syndrome like completely takes
Yeah,
over
but
me.
I don't agree with
But
that because I think you're really good at interviewing people, actually. It's just, and what I love about Veronica's the perfect example, too, of how there's no rules and there's no like strict way you have to do it, because what we did and what we do in our interviews is we edit ourselves out. So it's really kind of think about it in terms, too, of what do you want for the end result of the episode? It's your podcast. This person's coming onto your show, and how do you want this episode to turn out? And then think about it more in terms of storytelling again, and maybe like you're trying to put together a film or a radio show, So what you're really doing is you're trying to gather footage. You're trying to get that person to say certain things, and you're trying to get them to tell stories. You're trying to you're trying to get them out of character. You're trying to throw them off and make them, I don't know, laugh or be outrageous or cry or break down or whatever it is that's the topic of that episode. You want to create a space for them, almost like, I like to think of it as like you're the director and they're the actor, and you're trying to pull a really good performance out of them. But there's lots of different people who have this is such a huge topic.
Yeah, it is. And because I've tried to do this before, so I have asked people in our community and podcasters in our community who do a lot of interviews. And something that they have said is to prepare, to do research, but not too much that you will know the answer to the questions that you're going to make, to the point where like when you're not paying attention because you already know the answer. So it's a good thing to come into the interview with curiosity, because that will give you room to make follow-up questions.
Yeah.
And to just kind of lean into that curiosity and ask for more. Because if you have those questions, chances are that your audience have those questions too.
Yeah.
So that's something that I would do. And then, there's a lot of things that you can do in post-production if you are a wizard when it comes to editing.
But then also that gets in, if we're doing too much stuff in post-production, those episodes I mentioned, they took us a long time to edit. And then we would re-record our questions, and we would kind of try to piece it together as a story. Those episodes turned out being some of my favorite episodes, but they took a long time.
But that was like NPR style.
Yeah.
It's time-consuming.
It's time-consuming, but it's worth it, too. And I think, don't be afraid to experiment.
Yeah, don't be afraid to experiment. Be yourself. Just take it as a conversation and have those goals, those objectives, written down somewhere so you don't, go off the handle or go off the rails.
Go off the rails or the handle?
Not the handle.
I think you do go off the handle. At least I've heard that.
Go off the handle or the
fly
rail.
off the handle.
Fly off the handle.
The expression.
There you go.
Veronica loves learning and destroying any idiomatic expressions, which is great. Alexandria says, I have a question about background noise. How can that be edited out? That's a great question.
Honey, we're going to be here a while.
We're going to be here a while. There's one plugin that's really great. It's called the NS1. It's by Waves. I've been talking about it a lot lately. It's like $30, I believe. And go to waves.com and look for NS1. And it's called the Noise Suppressor. And it has one knob that you turn up, but it has really cool technology in it that puts together de-reverb, noise gates, and de-hum all in one plugin. And then if you want to do it other ways, then you have to kind of go find those other things I just mentioned, like de-reverb, de-noise. And most DAWs have that. Another really cool practice is to capture room tone. That's to say, before you get into an interview with somebody, you say, hey, everybody, let's be quiet for a second. And you just capture the way the room sounds for 5 seconds of silence. And that way, if you have that 5 seconds of silence, you can analyze that in Adobe Audition, Reaper. I think Audacity also has the option to analyze that silence, and then it will take that silence out of there. And it's not silence, it analyzes the frequencies of those buzzes and those noise. And that's more something called noise elimination. So there's noise elimination and there's noise reduction. But maybe, Alexandria, you could let us know what DAW you're using in the comments, and then I can get back to you on what might be a good solution for you. But the Waves plugins work for everyone, every DAW. That wasn't that long.
No.
She thought it was going to be longer. I was like, challenge accepted, you know? But, and then Anna asked us, hey, are you changing your days that you're going live? I know, Anna, I'm sorry. We were hanging out with you on Saturdays while you were cleaning your house.
Yes.
So
So we're trying to figure it out, our live stream schedule, because we don't have childcare on Saturdays. You know, that's the truth, and that's the truth of a lot of parents right now. We're just struggling a little bit with childcare.
Yeah, and it's causing too much contention with the 13-year-old babysitter to watch the toddler. So that's really the biggest thing. And then also we've just been looking at what it does for our channel. We're thinking about maybe doing we have so many different ideas, so we haven't figured it all out yet. We were gathering data from the 2 months that we went live every Saturday. And the data is interesting on YouTube, and it seems like it does some cool things. So we like it a lot. It's one of our favorite things to do. So we'll definitely continue going live. We're just not sure which days. We might just kind of randomly hop on and do it, right?
Yeah.
But we're thinking Fridays. I don't know. Is there a day that you guys would most like us to go live? Our YouTube tells us that people on our channel are most watching around noon Eastern time. So that's a couple hours earlier than now, usually. But we're thinking about kind of doing maybe a Thursday or a Friday live, kind of a Friday early evening kind of a live. But okay, well, let's get back to the last three things. And on this list, I think these are really cool things to think about as you move forward with your show.
Yeah.
So let me pop back over here. And do you want to take the next one and make this one like really outrageous?
Number 5?
Number 5, yeah.
Number 5. Passionate presenters mean passionate listeners.
Ooh, that was very passionate. Okay. So
if you don't talk about your show the same way Studio Steve talks about audio production, you are in trouble.
Yeah.
That's the kind of passion that you need to show.
I think it's a really good point too. It's kind of funny to me that he even has to make that point. Like, that's a point. Does that mean that there are a great number of podcasts that aren't passionate about the topic they're talking about?
Well, I think that it can be hard sometimes and I feel like my voice can be like monotone and boring sometimes. So I have to like bring it up a notch. I have to, you have to put more energy when you are recording a podcast episode, or more energy when you're recording a video, because the person is not there, and you just have to like let them know somehow that you are excited about the topic that you're covering.
I've heard there's all sorts of things that people do for this. I've heard standing instead of sitting really helps. That's kind of a vocal coach thing. And then also those vocal coaching things are really important. So doing warm-ups, having water, doing the motorboat, doing the different dogs, like a big dog, the medium dog, and the small dog of the dog breaths. I don't know if you've ever done that exercise before. It's really great when Veronica does it, which was a hint to make you try to do it. The dog breath thing. Yeah. So you just. Well, you start with the low ones. Anyway, but you can't see that on the podcast episode, so that's not good. So we'll cut that out. But anyway, so
so it all boils down or comes down. Is that a saying?
It all boils down. Yeah, I think that is.
It all comes down to how passionate you feel for your topic, for your thing. You know, if you feel very passionate about what you do, it's just going to show everywhere, and it's going to be a pleasure. It's going to be like an ear candy to listen to you talking about it, and it's going to get me interested too. Yeah,
I think so, definitely. And so just check your tone to make sure, because you're obviously passionate about the thing you're podcasting about.
And if you don't feel excited and as passionate as you think you should be feeling about your topic, then that it may be time for you to take a quick break and
or to reevaluate
things and get you back on track with that, because that's important.
It is.
If you don't enjoy what you do, like have been many times that we just don't enjoy, we have to take a break.
Okay, well, let's move on.
Let's move on
to step number 6. Great shows have vibrant communities.
Yes.
When thinking about communities with shows and vibrant communities, That's crazy, because that's like, how do you build a vibrant community? And this is where I think you were going to add your own thing to this about social media, right?
Yeah, so I think that one of the things that we have found with podcasting is that if you focus only on your podcast, it's really hard to build a community just from there. You need to exist in some other places so people can find you, people can learn more about you, and so you can connect with people. And that's why social media is there for you to use. You can, I think about Facebook groups, and even though I don't like the way that Facebook handles certain things, Facebook group where you are there, and you can make it private, you can make it public, whatever, but you know that the people who are there, they're there for you. In our community, we don't allow, all of the people that try to get in. I really read the answers that we have for the questions, and so to make sure that people in our community are people who belong there and not spammers or people who are not nice.
Yeah, and I think the best place to start too, a good question to ask yourself, I think you even asked this in the article, is your show two-way? Is it a two-way street? Are you trying to communicate with your audience? And podcast listeners are like famously voyeuristic, and they don't respond or do anything we tell them to do. But are you trying to find where they're hanging out on social media and become part of communities yourself? And sort of, does your podcast give a place for a community to maybe start?
Yeah. And also, are you interacting with your audience in some way? I think about one of the podcasts that I've been following for years, is Crime Junkie, and how they have made their community of listeners like part of what they do, and an active part of investigating cases and like providing information for unsolved cases or missing people, or so you feel like you belong to a cause. So as much as you can bring that to your show and bring that sense of community that you belong and that you're giving them purpose and a cause, then you're going to build a strong community. Yeah. That's what we're trying to do here with the Pod Sound School too, is to have a place where we can, all creators, a safe place where we can all express ourselves and, have creativity and also inclusivity and all of these things that we're trying to foster in our community.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, I think that just comes from like contributing. And it's just like, what can you contribute to the topic of your show, or what is it that you're trying to do? And that's kind of getting back to things like your why, like why you're podcasting to begin with. I know Caleb commented, talking about passion of our topic in podcasting, burnout is definitely an issue sometimes too. So you get burned out on your topic, you get burned out on whether or not the way that your audience is or isn't communicating with you.
Yeah, I think when it comes to being a content creator, being an entrepreneur, and doing all these things, burnout is unavoidable. But what's going to save you from just completely quitting is going back to your purpose.
Yeah.
It's going back to what made you start, and also the people in your community. There has been so many times where we're like exhausted, and then we get the email, we get the comment, like, you guys, we get that you have changed our lives.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, we're changing lives? Yes, like even with a small thing, just solving a small problem or solving a need that somebody has, that can be a life-changing thing for that person.
Yeah, and you're part of their life. And so I think that's where it's a good idea to survey your audience, know who they are. It's really hard.
Stay close to them.
We have analytics that tell us what state they're in, but that's about where it ends as far as our analytics. So, and then craft your show to allow them to come and be part of your show. An easy way to do that on YouTube, and we try to do that all the time, is actually make videos directly answering comments that you have.
Or this,
yeah. And then in answering comments, and the or this part, we'll edit that out as well.
Yeah. Or going live.
Oh, there you go. Good. That's the other tricky thing about going live and podcasting at the same time, is you got to.
It's not tricky for me.
It's not tricky?
No, not at all.
Oh, it's not tricky at all. Okay. Well, that's good. Do you want to announce number 7? And this is the last one on the list.
Número 6. Siete.
Oh boy.
Número 7. Popular shows deliver for listeners.
Deliver. I think you need to do a little more passionately, like a movie announcer.
Popular shows deliver for listeners.
I liked it. That was it kind of sounded angry. Maybe you could be more angry.
Okay.
Okay.
Popular shows deliver for listeners.
Deliver. Okay, I don't know. I don't know what I have in mind. I want some deliverance, you know? Okay, but anyway, what do you think he's getting to with that? And delivering, I think, is what we were talking about again with storytelling, which is the payoff. Mm-hmm. So giving them something.
Well,
right?
it's also understanding your audience. It's also being part of your audience's routines and being consistent with your show. Something that we're still working on.
Yeah, we're not the pod consistency school.
So it's all about just showing up for your audience, showing up for your people, being consistent with your show. That's what it is, right?
I think the payoff in that is what he's saying in the article isn't really the payoff from a storytelling standpoint, which is what I thought he meant, but it's more about the best shows are oriented around people's interests. Or the life stage that they're at. They're shows that answer a problem or fill a specific gap in listeners' lives. It's a really cool article. And again, we're leaving the link to it right where you're listening or watching. And you can go check it out as well. Okay, so there's number 7. That's it. We are done. Should we just get the last little sound bites for the podcast episode?
Yes.
And then we'll hop back over and see what other questions that you guys have.
Yes.
Okay, so what are the last little sound bites?
So I just want to say that I appreciate you. I appreciate listening to your that you've been listening to your show for 2 years. Is it 2 or 3 years? I know that there are people out there who have been listening to your show consistently. I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's been our pleasure to be part of your routines.
Yeah, and if you're an OG listener and you know about the Weatherby automated robot we used to have, and you would like you'd like Weatherby to come back, you know, because he's upset.
I replaced Weatherby.
Yeah, Veronica replaced Weatherby, the robotic.
And if you don't know what you're talking about, what we're talking about, then you're gonna have to
go back to the very early episodes where we had the automated robot Weatherby, who would give motivational quotes
on video and audio.
He was on video too, and he did hip hop dances. Weatherby was a good guy. And yeah, good luck with all of your podcasting endeavors.
Make sure you follow us on social media.
At Pod Sound School.
At Pod Sound School, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok.
And until next time,
happy casting.
Cool. Let me go over there and stop
We're making a video after this, so that's going to be interesting.
It will be kind of interesting. I don't know. I'm feeling a little burned out. It's sad. It sounds like Anna says that she got COVID. And now she's finally getting back to watching stuff. I haven't even been able to record my podcast.
No.
Oh, no.
We thought we had COVID. We've been tested multiple times. Steven got sick before Christmas.
All the time. I mean, I've had.
So he was sick for 2 weeks, and then I was sick for 2 weeks.
I feel like I've had every variant.
I ended up like having pneumonia and strep throat. And now he's sick again.
Yeah.
Our kid's been sick. It's just, it goes around, but all of us have been testing negative,
yeah, and we get tons and tons of tests for COVID. So, well, I'm glad you're recovering and you're getting over it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, boo.
Yeah, that's too bad. Didn't really
That's
have any.
no fun.
Didn't really have any other questions here. Caleb said thank you. Happy to be here. So, and then Alexandria, you said Reaper is what you're using. I can't remember. Are you inside the Reaper for Podcasters course? And if you are, I'm sorry if I haven't connected the dots there. But Reaper's really great. Reaper works with waves. So what I just suggested, I actually have a video. I can't remember. I know inside the course I show you how to use it, but I don't know if I have a video on YouTube where I show you how to use the NS1 plugin. But it's really easy. And you just download it to your computer as a Waves plugin, and then it works with Reaper. And it's such a cool plugin. And I do have a video here on our channel. I'll drop the link to it in this description as well, too, where I talk about the 4, and I'm like making some, stupid YouTube face, and I talk about the four plugins for podcast plugins, and one of them is the NS1, and it's a really cool plugin. So you'll love that with noise reduction. And then the other thing with noise reduction is you could also, I'm not going to go there. But before, this is great, and I think, right here, how can we join the course? So the Reaper for Podcasters course is a really great course, and we actually, if that's the course you're talking about for the editing course, you go to podcastingsmart.com/R4P, which is R for Reaper, the number 4, and then P for podcasters, R4P. I'll leave a link for that too in this video. After we end this live stream, we'll add all those links to this video.
Yeah.
We also have other courses as well too,
Yeah.
but that one's for podcast
the video
editing.
too.
Yeah, and I just released the video about the course, about how you can actually make money as a podcast editor. That was our video this week, and Reaper is a wonderful solution you can use professionally to edit podcasts. So, and get to sound really good. And I don't know why I have the camera on you. The switcher.
Me, I know.
I'm sorry.
I'm so
I get
confused.
I get the switchy thing.
La pendeja que no,
I'm trying to do it with my peripheral vision. But I can you imagine if I did it on me the whole time? My faces are so bad. I like mouth everything.
Looking at the camera,
I know. I'm sorry. And then, what is the top 3 things to do if I'm first just starting a podcast? Ooh, that's a good question. The top 3 things to do. So if you're just starting, I'm going to say you're just like at the very beginning. But for the sake of this, to answer it, let's also say that like you kind of have an idea. Like you know what your interests are. But because I know that's the first thing Veronica would say is...
Yeah, know your audience.
Oh, know your audience. Okay.
Yeah, know your audience. I would spend some time to really writing down a profile for your ideal listener. That's super important. Ask yourself all sorts of questions like what kind of routine this person has, what are their interests, what kind of TV shows or Netflix shows this person likes, everything related to the topic of your show that you imagine that this person would be interested in.
Yeah, and you can even
that helps a lot, because then when you're creating your content, you're creating your content for this particular person and not for everybody, which is what we want at the beginning. We want to start small and then we expand and expand more.
Yeah, that's great. And I think
so that will be number 1.
Number
Just
1,
know your audience.
Know your audience, or even you could say build an ideal listener profile. And that's just write down at least 15 questions about who you imagine your ideal listener would be and answer them. That's that.
And
right
if you
there
can
is
give
huge.
that person a name, that's even
we had
better.
Carl
and if you can have
Carla.
like all those answers like ready, just don't go through this exercise and forget about it. Just have them display somewhere. So, and those may change as you produce your podcast and you interact with your people. Then you may tweak it and change it. But that's very effective. And if you want to take it a little bit further, then doing research for your topic to see if what you come up with those answers, if they are in reality what your ideal listener is searching for online. If that's because that research is going to solidify what you already done.
So then is this the same point, or are you making number 2?
No, this is the same point.
That's a big point.
Because
I think
it's a big one, but it's part of planning your show. And that should be...
Okay, because I would think that would almost be number 2, which is validating your idea.
No, because number 2 is, I would say, production.
Production, okay.
Production quality is important.
Learning how to... Okay, so the first one is ideal listener research show development. But I think if you're just starting with your show, there's probably 2 that would need to be show development. It's tricky if there's only 3 things.
I know.
And we got to keep them small. I would say define your ideal listener.
Okay.
And then I would say in that market, how about we just call it market research for number 1, okay? So market research includes trying to figure out who your listener is and trying to figure out if people really care about this thing and where they're hanging out, the type of people who care about this thing. Like what social media platform are they on? And are there other podcasts like this? Spend a few days just Googling and listening to podcasts that are similar to the one you imagine yours might be, and but not paranoia type stuff, and answering these kind of questions. So that's one, market research.
Yeah, market research.
So then what's number 2?
Number 2, it would be your production, and Okay, your production. It's very important. And when I say production, I'm not talking about only the technical side of things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also talking about putting a show that is compelling and a show that is enticing and a show that it's gonna, create some curiosity and it's gonna help you grow.
So by production, those kind of things don't even sound like audio production.
So it's not audio production; it's the whole production, which is putting the episodes together, planning your content,
putting the trailer together.
Putting the trailer together. It's like the content inside the episodes, and also the technical side of it, which is learning microphone technique.
Well, I think that would just be number 3, and number 3 would just be start recording.
Well, number 3 is
promotion or build a social media profile.
Building your communities.
Yeah. So I think very early on, what's really cool to do with the podcast would be number 3, and that is to set up some social media profiles, which is why number 1 is so important, to figure out where your people are hanging out. And that's different depending on what your topic of your show's at, what the topic of your show is around. They might be on Instagram, they might be on Facebook, they might be on TikTok, and set up a profile there and start as soon, even before you start recording your podcast, start putting out content on those social media platforms and start engaging with people and start following people. And that will help you to get followers by engaging and following and tweeting or posting or whatever it is. That's a really good one. And then that allows you to announce your podcast that will be coming up. And, you can set a date, but that's past 3. So really there's like 10 you need to do. But the first 3 to get started, if you're just getting started, is get into that market research and then get into the production, the pre-production stuff. So even before recording, and that's like, what format's your show going to be? Is it going to be interview-based, solo-based? Is it going to have... how often are you going to release episodes? Once a week? How many episodes are in a season, kind of a thing? Just knowing those things is really helpful. How long your episodes are going to be, and then like how are you going to? What Veronica really wants you to get buttery and delicious and have some good stuff in there. And then
lots of storytelling.
Yeah, and then number 3 is build some social media profiles.
And I know that this sounds like a lot of work, like very overwhelming. You can take it, one thing at a time. You can do your research first and maybe get going with a few episodes. And then from there, you decide that you want to start your social media or refining the content that you put into your episodes or just keep improving. What you need to do is to start, and then you'll improve along the way, and just make sure that you keep coming back to us.
We'll give you some good tips. And then we had Roxana says, I finally caught a live. Hey, how's it going?
Hi.
So glad you caught a live with us, and thanks for joining in. And she also had a question as well. And it was the same question and I am trying to find where it is. That Will had. Hey, Will, how's it going? We're using StreamYard to right now, and that's what Roxana asked us.
We have to make a video right after this, so should we say goodbye?
Yeah, we have just 2 more minutes. Let me just quickly have one question, just real quick. Our last question is for Shanika. Shanika Kid, how do I help with burnout and feeling overwhelmed, even though I'm organized with scheduling and not feeling like myself to do anything right now? Yeah, so Shanika is a little bummed out, and that's totally normal, and overwhelmed probably by everything that goes into it. What would you say?
I know that sometimes it feels like we're not doing enough, Shanika.
I think that's how you pronounce it. I might be mispronouncing it, but yeah.
Just get that out of your mind. You're doing enough.
Yeah.
You're doing enough, and you don't have to... prove that you are, superstar and you have everything under control and juggling all these things at the same time. And there's also a lot of expectation, and we see a lot of people like doing multiple things, and that can really affect the way we feel about what we do,
and also we
get discouraged.
We get to see just the face of it too on the platforms and on the podcasts and on the profiles and on the YouTubes. You know, you don't get to see the real life behind the scenes stuff that all of our, our the personalities that we like, the content creators that we consume, the content that we consume. It's like, man, they have their shit together. They're like doing this, and you know, they're so well organized. Or no, actually, they're just a big wreck. And all of us, we're just big piles of emotional goo, like every single person, right? Mushy, very mushy goo.
Yeah. So,
and then, but you could just create and just start putting content out. If you're feeling overwhelmed, put content out about feeling overwhelmed, maybe. You know.
Yeah, and just to keep it to a few practical things that you can do. Look around you and see if there are ways that you can ask for help. And it can be as simple as telling your significant other that they have to watch the kids more, if that's the concern or the case. Or it can be reaching out for a friend that can help you with, taking pictures, or somebody who can help you with the editing. As much as you can outsource the things that are taking you, that are consuming the majority of your time,
draining your energy,
and not having you stay in that creative and happy place. The more you can delegate those to other people, the better.
Yeah. And then with that too, pick something that excites you to do as well, and something that just sounds like fun. So like when Veronica was talking about have a friend help you take photos, I was like, oh, photo shoot, So something that's going to make you sound, or something that's going to make it, oh, I want to do that. What's something that maybe you could change up that could be different? And we've been talking a lot about burnout during this live stream too. It's like, that's a really good antidote for burnout too, is just to change it up and try something different.
Yeah, and that's a very good thing. Just hold on to the things that brings you joy.
Yeah.
Because I know how it is. You don't feel like doing anything, and you get in this, this pickle where you're just like, you just stuck with your to-do list, and the next thing on your to-do list you don't want to do, and it's just you're procrastinating, and days go by. So don't get stuck on that thing on your to-do list. Instead, just do something that brings you joy. Putting on makeup and making yourself look beautiful for a photo shoot, then do that. Then do those things that may not be in order on your to-do list, but that will bring you more joy. And then when you fill up your cup, when you're feeling more creative, and when you're feeling more happy about what you're doing, then you can tackle that thing on your to-do list that got you down the black hole.
Yeah, I like that. And I think you were also talking to yourself a little bit too.
Yes.
So we can relate to you. Absolutely.
It's so normal.
It's so hard, and it's difficult when it's difficult to keep
sick,
it going.
When you don't feel like it, when you have
when
kids.
you're bummed out, when you're overwhelmed, just anything, and there's a lot that goes into all of this. And I think you're just brave that you've started and that you're going. And I think, just keep going at it. And we'll definitely check out your podcast and give it a little love and some feedback. It's called Simply Nikki Podcast.
Yes.
Everybody should go check out Simply Nikki's podcast and see what kind of constructive criticism you have. Maybe leave some reviews. And that's it. We're over our hour mark. We try to keep these to an hour. And we managed to record a podcast episode at the same time, which was... maybe it felt a little awkward at times when we were reading, but it worked.
We have the vacuum in the background.
But we have a few.
Threw me off a little bit.
We have a few separated clips. I just had Reaper running in the background of StreamYard, and so StreamYard was going, and then while Reaper is so low on the CPU usage that you can just have it running in the background. So the audio interface from these microphones is going into StreamYard, but it's also going into Reaper, and I just can record in Reaper on a different window. And then,
did you say Rainper?
Rainper?
Yeah, I think you said Rainper.
Rainper is really... What's your favorite DAW? It's Rainper. I'm going to call it Rainper. I don't know why. That's just why I'm forgetting how to talk. Now, I don't know what that accent is. I hope it doesn't offend anyone, but that's the accent that comes out when it's Rainper. Well, we love you guys so much. And I think somebody mentioned they like Thursdays. We're going to be doing some market research, and so don't expect anything regular from our lives at this moment, but we'll keep you in the loop if we're going to do something regular.
We'll keep showing up.
We'll keep showing up, but one thing that we can say is our videos come out on Wednesdays. Wednesdays at noon.
We changed that.
Yeah, we changed that this year for 2022. Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern time is when you can expect our weekly videos. And this one that's coming up on this Wednesday is going to be all about live streaming. And that's the video.
How we did this.
And how we did this. So definitely check in for that on Wednesday. And until we see you guys next time, thanks so much for joining us. And have a good rest of your day.
No olviden hacer la tarea.
I'm going to press this button that lets it fade out. And it looks fancy.
Oh.
But they can still hear the audio,
No olviden hacer la tarea.
which is a little creepy.